Yes.
You say there are people here that will tell me what I can do. I would like to know, as a retired teacher, administrator in every school district, I would like to know how and what I can do to bring about change. I've read your book. I think it's great. You make a lot of great things that I agree with. What can I do now to bring about this change? Just writing a book and talking about not going to work. We've got to do something. What can I do?
I totally agree. You know, I dream about what I refer to as the Million Mom March on Olympia. Now, I know there are some legislators here, so I don't get too scared. But just think of that. Just think of that picture of a million moms marching on Olympia, demanding change. And it doesn't have to be Olympia, right? It could be the John Stanford building, for all I care. But demanding change where it needs to change. Demanding answers to some pretty fundamental questions affecting, you know, public school education. You know, one of the title of the book, Outrageous Learning, you know, part of that came from the fact that even though we all know that there are problems with our public school system, there's no outrage. You know, where is it? I don't know. I certainly have not felt it. And I think the time has come to really change that. And the only way to change that is from a grassroots effort, a visible grassroots effort, demanding answers to some questions, and affecting, hopefully, changes in policy. Back there.
Yes, I recently listened to a speech that Bill Gates gave at the TED conference earlier this year or late last year. And he explained some proposals that are similar to what you proposed in your book. But he acknowledged that it's tough to get those implemented because there are people who feel threatened by those changes. And I think the obvious answer to what is the common sense in all these problems is that all those problems represent enormous profit and power for the unions. And this has been the case for more than 30 years, 40 years. And I have no confidence myself that any problem will be solved until that nut is cracked. And I'd like to hear your comments.
Sure. I think unions are a problem. They're not the only problem. There's a whole host of problems. But the unions, we can talk about the unions. There is hope. There are some places in the country that I have visited where there is hope. Take Denver as an example. The Denver Public Schools has something called ProCom. It's a merit pay system for teachers. It actually had the support of the union. Now, how do we make that happen here? Well, you know, you have to offer some carrots. Right? And ProCom is all about merit pay, and the teachers are basically giving up tenure. So all new teachers entering the system have to be paid on ProCom. Existing teachers can either opt in or opt out. But eventually, you know, those that don't want to opt into the new system, you know, they'll eventually retire and the system washes itself out. So there are examples of this happening. Is it happening in a broad-scale fashion? The answer is no. But I do believe that if we can have a reasonable discussion, probably behind closed doors with the union leadership, that maybe we can figure out some common ground, you know, to work from. But if we do it in a public fashion, believe me, the only thing that's going to happen is everyone digs their heels in, right? Because enlightened self-interest rules the day. Yes.
Are we paying enough in the state of Washington to educate our children?
I don't know the answer to that. Are we paying enough in the state of Washington to educate our students? I don't know the answer to that. My gut tells me that I actually think there's already enough money in the system. It's just being used inappropriately. It goes back to headcount. Look, if more than half the people on payroll, you know, aren't in the classroom, well, my God, what are they doing? There's a chapter in the book that actually lists. I just went to the website of the Seattle Public Schools and I just started, you know, recording down, you know, job titles. It's mind-numbing. I have no idea what they do. I'm sure they do some good stuff, but is it really necessary, and is it having the impact in the classroom? You know, we have to move from a very centralized form of education now, and we have to return to a decentralized form of education. What does someone sitting in the John Stanford administration building know about what's happening in a classroom in inner Seattle? I don't know. I know if we had more teachers in that classroom, that they would know what's going on in their classroom. It's just a matter of allocating, what we already have and doing it, I think, a little bit smarter. Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Just want to find the outrage, go to a school board meeting and listen to the parents. You'll find lots of outrage there. But the question that I have actually is, how would you suggest dealing with the difference in funding between schools in poorer neighborhoods and schools in richer neighborhoods, when the schools in the poorer neighborhoods face a combination of, one, a possible lack of parent participation, and two, not having the same private funding options that the schools in the richer neighborhoods have? If your charter is to equitably educate, how do you manage that?
Well, I think there are a number of ways to do that. The way the student formula, I think tries to do that in some way. I think that there are other mechanisms that could be brought into play. So as an example, private schools, or even take charter schools, not in the state because they don't exist, but charter schools elsewhere, they supplement the support that they get from the school districts with fundraisers. And every single one of those schools has a board of directors. What public school do you know of that has a board of directors? I can think of every private school has a board of directors, or a board of trustees, whatever they call themselves. But what public school do you know that actually has a board of directors that hires and fires and supports the principal and that team? I don't know of any. And I think we would go a long way in the state if we just made that simple change. If we return the power of decision-making for that school community back to the principal and his team of teachers, and we arm that principal with a board of directors, at the very least what you're going to end up with, and when I say a board of directors, I mean an appointed board, and Andre is going to be running for the Seattle Public School Board as an elected school board member. I'm totally opposed to elected positions, but assuming we had appointed school boards, not only at the district level, but for each individual school, you would, at the minimum, have 16,000 new board members who would know all the problems that's happening in their school and in their classrooms. They would be active, they would be engaged, they'll make things happen because they're probably going to be business leaders or community leaders who can make things happen. Maybe one more question.
My side. You were talking about there's probably enough money in the system. Actually, the state of Washington pays per student about 20% less than the U.S. national average. So in our state, there's not enough money in the system. But there is an opportunity, sort of modeled on the kind of board of directors that you're talking about, for us to really bring in private-public partnerships into our schools, solve a lot of the funding problems in all regions, whether it's schools that have low income or not. My question for you is, would you be willing to commit to being a public-private partnership sort of czar for the city of Seattle if we recruited you on that level?
I don't think I should answer that. I want to see the job description for some.
I'm sending it to you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Look, like I said before, I'm not going away. I started this process. I will take it to its either glorious finish or demise. It's important. Everyone in this room knows that it's important. This is the single most important thing we can do for our country. It's how we educate our kids. That foundational piece, which has been on a slide in the wrong direction, needs to be fixed. And it is going to take our combined efforts, not for a couple of days, probably not even for a couple of years, but we have got to just be committed to the long haul on this thing. You know, we've got to start asking the tough questions. We've got to start demanding. We've got to be vocal, and we've got to be a little bit better organized than we've ever been before. So thank you.